Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro's latest film, The Irishman, has got the entire world of cinema talking, and not just because it's the film that will reunite the two after 20 years and also stars cinematic legends like Al Pacino and Joe Pesci. The Irishman has caused quite a stir, seeing as though no Hollywood studio was willing to finance it, and yet the streaming service Netflix picked up the project and has thrown almost $200 million at the film. Netflix are currently in a battle with Hollywood, attempting to muscle in on the movie world and legitimize themselves as an award-winning film studio, something which Hollywood purists are venomously against, given Netflix released their movies on their streaming service and not in cinema, aside from a few hand-picked movies chosen for award contention. One of the most outspoken critics of Netflix is Steven Spielberg, who has spoken in great detail about how he feels Netflix should not be in contention to win Academy Awards, saying, "Once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie. I don't believe that films that are given token qualifications in a couple of theatres for less than a week should qualify for the Academy Award nomination." The Irishman star Robert De Niro has weighed in on the discussion on streaming and the criticism of Netflix. In this video, I've put together two separate interviews De Niro has done, both about Netflix. Please note, the first interview is one that I've only seen on CNN's website. I'm not saying it's fake or anything, it's just that when I do a video on an interview, there are usually multiple sources citing quotes from whoever is being interviewed, which shows that it is legitimate, but I could only find the following on CNN's website and nowhere else, so make of it what you will. De Niro says, "With all due respect to Steven Spielberg, Steven was one of the first people to come into Tribeca and I'm indebted to him. But he's the most successful director in the world, ever. It's not that easy for other people in smaller situations and it's about the work. A lot of opportunity has come out of the Netflix thing. It's not so simple and I agree we have to have the theatre format, it's so important. But, I don't know, things move on in a way that we can't foresee. But the respect for the theatre format venue, whatever, we have to try and hold on to it." So clearly De Niro feels strongly about the theatre experience, but he also acknowledges that opportunities were there with Netflix when they weren't available anywhere else. He also makes a good point in that Spielberg is at the top of the food chain, and there are smaller independent filmmakers who would not have the distribution opportunities available in the classic means. And platforms like Netflix provide these chances to independent filmmakers and less powerful directors to get audiences watching their films. The second interview comes from Deadline, who asked him about what movie watching experience he prefers, and he said, "I like the traditional in-theatre. Depending on what the movie is, if it's a comedy, you have to watch it with an audience. I don't watch that much streaming stuff, but I know the binge watching that people do." He also mentioned that he has watched films on a computer instead of going to the cinema to watch them, adding it might not be the orthodox way to do it, but in terms of time and expediency, you still get the same oomph, especially if it's about the story. "I come from the theatre in regards to screening movies. I like that, but as I said, sometimes at the end of the day it's just about seeing what it is. I just need to see it. Does it take away from the experience when watching on a computer? Yes, but if it's a special movie that's a couple of hours long, that would be better to see in a theatre with an audience to have that communal feel. It's good to make the effort to see it in that way." So I think we all know what the score here is with De Niro and Scorsese regarding the release of The Irishman. The duo love cinema. They're all about cinema. It's something they think, like many from their generation, that cinema is intrinsically linked with film. It existed before they were born, and things like watching movies on television were popularized later, and watching movies via streaming decades later. In a perfect world, they would want the movie wide released throughout the world on the big screen, but they acknowledge we do not live in a perfect world. We live in a world where a Scorsese movie starring De Niro, Pacino and Pesci cannot get the funding it needs to be made, so they have accepted the closest alternative whilst remaining grateful to Netflix that they left them alone to make the film in their own way. It's quite an interesting debate, the whole Netflix versus cinema hullabaloo. Where do you stand on it? Should movies only be watched in cinemas? Are streaming platforms sacrilege? Or should all the old phobies in Hollywood accept that film studios have legitimate competition now in the film distribution market? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.